Greetings and salutations, friend. Good to see you again. I am Jeremy Tank, and if you are watching this, I am your brand guy. What does that mean? That means you've got someone on your side and in your corner when it comes to talking about your brand. And how do we define your brand? Well, it's what you're sharing with the world. It's how you want to be perceived. It's sort of like your reputation. If your reputation really drives everything about, who you are, your vision for the future, your goals for the future, what you want to achieve, how you want to impact the world, the legacy you want to live. That's big, right? That's some crazy big stuff. And generally, in the past, the idea of brand is something that's been applied to products and services. Because the idea of brand is what you, as the customer, the consumer, the buyer of it, the user of the products, think about it. And that's really important to the people putting out the products because they want you to think about their products. They want you to buy their stuff. In fact, they want you to completely unconsciously buy the same items again and again and again and again because you get programmed into it. And a lot of psychology, a lot of belief, psychology of belief, combine those, huh? Yank, love it. And a lot of influence goes into branding, goes into the idea of communicating to the customer why those products are important, what they can do for you, how they solve a problem that no other darn product can solve for you. And the whole exercise of sharing that, here's why it's great, is called marketing. And there's a lot of marketing out there, but that's not branding. Branding has a lot to do with the psychology of color, the psychology of type, the psychology of shapes, the psychology of experience. How does it feel when you pick up a package, when you open the box, when you smell it for the first time? These are sensory things. These create memories in your limbic system, in your body, actually, honestly, anywhere in your body. It's not just your brain, because when you smell something, it cues off things in you. It cues off, I'm feeling like magnetic resonance, like in your heart. Like something goes, yes, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. I love that. It reminds me of something from childhood. Now, that's a brand that you want to go back to again and again and again. Sometime in the 80s, 90s that I started to notice, corporations picked up on the fact that they can benefit from all of these little tweaks, all of this psychology knowledge, all of this influential marketing. They realized that they could apply that to their bigger corporate entity, not just the little products. So that's where all of a sudden we see like Coca-Cola go from giant to gianter. We see AOL, who was pretty well known in the 90s, all of a sudden like balloon because their influence is everywhere, and you either loved or hated AOL. If one of my stupid favorite movies, okay, I love movies. I love watching movies. One of my stupid favorite movies, and I call it that because it's not a great movie. It's just fun, and it's really kind of dated now, is You've Got Mail. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And I love those two. I love them in Joe versus the Volcano, right? I love that. And the reason I bring that up, and I just blanked. That's brilliant. Happens sometimes, right? The whole concept. Oh, AOL, of course. You've Got Mail is a movie named after AOL. And that's what it is. That's the whole point. And then when you reach that point, that something big starts getting named after you, I mean, massive corporations follow this route. And they do that because even if a consumer doesn't buy their products, even if they don't buy the services, they can at least look at the corporation and go, they stand for blank, they do blank, and, generally have a positive perception in the world. And that's what brand is, having that positive perception. Well, because of the rise of the internet, and really, really because of the rise of the internet. The internet put the power into the consumer's hand. No longer were you reliant on banks or car dealerships to like figure out their own crap and you just had to deal with it. Suddenly, people on the internet could go out and research things and come to the table with a ton of information that was never available before. That's just options. When you look online, there are tons of options. And what happened is that employers started applying branding, the idea of brand, to their CEOs, to their executives, to their team. And all of a sudden we've got like Bill Gates, who became, of course he was the head of Microsoft. That's huge and that's big and that's wonderful. But really he did a lot of personal branding on himself to position him to go forwards with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Elon Musk is all about personal brand. His personal brand far outshines the Tesla or the solar panels and the rockets. Now, if you're into one of those things, then you're going to disagree with me. And that is perfectly fine because that is your experience. You are digging into what you actually see and believe and feel about that. From the outside, I'm not into any of those things, although I would love a Tesla car, right? Why not? His ego, his drive, his everything far outshines, in the media at least, everything about his companies. And when he does something that's crazy, because that's Elon Musk, it shows up in the newspaper mostly about him, and it's not about the companies. And the thing is that is now filtering because of the internet, because of LinkedIn, because of Facebook, because of all these different applications where you become the star. You get out there, you share who you are, you influence those around you. You know, it leads to what? It leads to more job offers, maybe. Maybe it means to get a promotion if you start getting a lot of attention for your business. And so the idea of personal branding is actually a trickle-down thing that because of technology, because of phones and pads and all these other funky things, it is highly influential in the business sphere. So we look at this, we're like, okay, so we've got products, services, that's sort of like the standard thing that's commercial. That's capitalism, right? Let's brand it. Let's put a little spin on it to make sure that it gets put on a shelf somewhere and someone buys it. And then you have the companies, let's make sure that our company is seen in a positive light so that other people want to do business with us, create partnerships. Really building that brand determines the values that you place as highest order so that employees can follow those leads, and they know that if they're going to fit in with that culture, they have to accept those values. Values on a product or a service are pretty nebulous, but it certainly makes a difference. If you're going for a Razer laptop, you know what you're getting from that company. Versus like Alienware, versus I hear Gateway is making computers again somewhere. Each one of them offers something slightly different, and there's a different take based on the value that they place within their company, within their products and their service. And that's all brand. Creating that differentiation amongst things is all part of the brand. And the company, when you try to create the brand, the differentiation at the company level, the things that really matter, that value, that push things forward, that vision, that goal for the company, a lot of that has to come down to how do you create a culture that is sustainable and can scale. And that really is values, having goals and beliefs that tie everyone together. And a personal brand is taking that same kind of information and looking at your own life, your own person, your own beliefs, your own values, things that determine how you behave in an instance. Now, yesterday, I talked about the active experience, and the active experience is what you are experiencing right here and now. As if that's not confusing enough, right? What am I experiencing? I am standing in a room that is full of sunlight. Sunlight's streaming through the window right there. My cat is down on the ground sleeping right there. If I am quiet, you can hear Flash snoring, so I am not going to be that quiet. I've got notes in front of me that I can see. I can smell my house, my apartment, This is all part of the active experience. It's everything that is coming into my senses: sight, smelling, taste, hearing, touch. Touch is fun because with this big old beard, every bit of wind, every bit of sensitization comes across and tickles my face, and it causes me a different reaction. That's fun. That's a fun experience to have. And And if you're a woman, you've let your leg hair grow long and you walk down the street and you just let it go for it because why not, then you kind of understand it's an experience you're not used to, having touch and wind blow through hair that may not normally be there. So the active experience is all of these things that go into what you are experiencing right now. And the thing with the active experience is it changes moment to moment. I can't say second to second, because second to second is too long for the active experience. The active experience is literally Eckhart Tolle's now. It is the thing that happens right this instant, what floods into your brain, what thought is there, and it's based on all of your sensations plus your focus, what your mind is concentrating on. And I'll show this little diagram that I drew yesterday. And my diagram, yay! So what we've got, this entire Post-it note is a metaphor for our active experience. In any given moment, there are things that are popping into your head. These are the circle things. Some of them are big, some of them are small. Some of them drastically influence what you are thinking. Some of them are tiny and just sort of push you in a certain direction for a thought, an idea, a goal. Smiley face is your conscious mind. Sleepy face, that's a little bit of drool coming out of the bottom of the mouth. That's very anime. Is your unconscious mind, or other than conscious mind, subconscious mind. And right here in the middle, that is the disassociative line. So at some point in your experience, whatever that experience is, right? At some point, your brain says, this information is really useful, the rest of it I haven't thought of in a long time, so I'm just going to kind of disassociate the rest of it and push it off to the side. And that's perfectly fine. That is a normal operation for your brain. Your brain, your body loves efficiency. It is all about the conservation of energy. In fact, laziness, one of the prime examples of conservation of energy. Your brain, your body, your emotions, your beliefs, your motivation doesn't want to do something that it might feel is a waste of energy, is a waste of calorie burning, right? Really, it's ATP and all these other cellular systems making you move. But the fact is that your brain and body favor conservation of energy. They favor laziness. They favor simplicity. So what happens is that when you first wire and fire some of these neurons across your brain, it uses a lot of energy. And if you're doing thinking, learning for the first time on a subject, you are just pouring through tons of energy, and chances are you're going to be exhausted and hungry by the end, right? I'm sure you've had this happen. You've got done using your brain, really paying attention, focusing for, 2, 3, 6, 8 hours at a time, and you're like, I just want to crash. I just want to sleep. I want no one to talk to me. I need my brain to relax. I need food. I need... We've all been there. That's because you're working that brain. You're burning all those calories. You are really, really pushing your body right to the extreme, and that's awesome. Now, if you had to do it again, would you be as tired? No, you wouldn't, because those neurons have already been connected. You have taken neurons that were facing different directions and literally connected them in the brain. You've fired these things together. So the more that you do that, the simpler it is, the less calories it takes to shift and connect those neurons. They automatically start building bigger bridges across your entire neural network. Now what that means is that it uses less energy to fire the same neurons over and over and over and over and over again. So if you have an experience day in and day out and you keep doing it, literally it becomes something that becomes programmed on a deeper level, a subconscious level, so that your brain can move on to things, move on to anything else, move on to something that is highly relevant to the brain instead of something that's just repeated. And that's when that disassociative line kicks in, and you kind of go from here to here. That disassociative line also includes, let me start a different way. Every one of these circles is an experience you have had at some point in your life, whether good or bad, that trained your mind, your body, and being how to react within a certain circumstance. I often refer to this as trauma because in the polyvagal theory, which is all about fight or flight, this theory, polyvagal theory basically is looking at the connections of the vagus nerves, the ventral vagus nerve, which comes up the front, and the dorsal vagus nerve, which comes up the back and connects to the base of the at the base of the brain in the back and into the limbic brain. It actually has a connection up to the prefrontal cortex. And what happens is that when you are faced, from the point actually before you're born, when you're faced with something that challenges you, scares you, pushes you, it's an experience you're not used to. And when you're young, you're not used to anything. So everything creates something like this. And it creates a response in one of these two areas, or in the sympathetic nervous system. So you've got these two nerves, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. And together, it's this balance that triggers different degrees of fight or flight. You know, maybe it's just a little bit of nervousness. Maybe you're a baby, you can't move, you can't do anything, but you can scream, you can cry, you can pass out. These are all triggers and reflexes of the fight or flight response. And every single one of these, as you grow, becomes its own little memory, its own little part, its own little essence of being. And in fact, these can actually become essence of being before you're born. And what happens then in pre-birth parts, it's very conceptual. All of this is conceptual, right? But a pre-birth part is literally dealing with trauma or trained response before it ever made it out of the womb. And all of this becomes the unconscious that can pop up in any active moment. So why am I spending so much time talking about active experience? Because the active experience is what you see, it's what you feel, it's how you are, it's how you reflect, it's how you exist. But the active experience is tardy. It's the best way I can say it. It's tardy. The active experience is what happens when your senses sense something and send those signals to your brain. And then your brain, in that instant, says, okay, wait, what's happening? And that's the point that all of your body sends more signals that flood your active experience, conscious and unconscious, other than conscious. There's other than conscious, there's unconscious and there's subconscious. So I'm trying to be like, other than conscious is both of those, right? Unconscious is just sort of like all of these memories, these thoughts in the different parts of the brain. The subconscious has a lot to do with the body and memories that are stored in the body, in muscle tissue, in organs. According to Chinese medicine, all of your organs, all of your tissues contain an essence of memory, of emotion, of thought, of pattern that are really tightly correlated. If you read the Tao of Trauma, they're tightly correlated with the stress and fight or flight response. So coordinating where in your tissues all of these memories, all of these thoughts, all of these ideas come from, along with the parts of the brain and spinal cord that are the unconscious mind, they pull up memories and offer them up in any given instant as part of the other than conscious part of your active experience. To move... Okay, I'm not quite there yet. I got 5 minutes before I get to say that phrase. Your active experience is tardy, meaning that all this stuff pops up and goes up to your neocortex. And when your neocortex finally gets these signals and puts it all together, using the reticular activating system, right? This is actually a point that I think they did a study. They found that there is actually a corridor, a gateway that's back here and down in the middle somewhere, that helps choose. It really is the reticular activating system in a physical form that helps choose and prioritize the signals from outside of us that make it to our consciousness. And that consciousness evaluates what's going on and determines the next course of action. Right? I mean, that's pretty much what we do. When something is fight or flight, when something is automatic, when something is definitely built to have an automatic response, it just happens. We bat away things from our face. We try to protect ourselves. We use the limbic brain, the lizard brain, the Neanderthal brain, the caveman brain, the one that wants to keep us alive and reproducing and we use that to reflect on a lot of basic automatic things. But when it comes to something that is challenging, something that is interesting, in our active experience, it requires the neocortex. And the neocortex is slower than the rest of your body. In fact, your heart transmits information up and down through the spinal cord and through other electromagnetic channels, through fascia, to the rest of your body much faster than your brain does. which means that by the time you're actually living an active experience, you are living a moment in time away from what's actually happening. You are tardy. Now that's good and bad. It's good because it gives you time to reflect. If you can take that time, see what's going on, embrace it, it gives you time to reflect. It's bad because what you think is right now is the past. Think about that. What you think is right now that you are reacting to is actually the past. And for you to imagine and get into the point of being in the future, you have to get out of the reaction. You have to get out of measuring the outside world and bringing it into the active experience. Because by the time that hits, you're already in the past. There's the idea that normally when we walk into a situation, we examine the situation, we make a determination of what that's like, and then we react accordingly. And that is the active experience. That is our basic way of being and approaching things. Dr. Joe Dispenza said a lot of people get stuck in that cycle. And in fact, they get stuck in more of a cycle. It's depressing, it's sad, they live their life, and they keep doing these things over and over again, and they don't really change the results. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, isn't that the definition of insanity? I mean, you don't really want to do that. So, waiting for my phone to kick off. It's got a little thing going on. Sorry. So what we need to do is think of things differently. And the trouble here is that any of these little parts in the active experience can identify with being you, because they've been you your entire life. And they're just pieces of you. They are decisions, they are memories, they are concepts that are helping you live and survive, because they're looking at the past and trying to make up, guess, and prognosticate what